There you go. You're good. Time for your update.
Well, it's all going to hell. Have you ever seen a week like this? I mean, really. On a scale of 1 to 10, the news feeds in all directions are crazy. And the attempts of the various factions, the different corporations, are crazy. We've seen everything from attempts to vote Mr. Trump out by the Congress to attempts to arrest the Congress, which are ongoing, by the way. They're being pursued because of the things that the members of Congress have done. It turns out that the dirt on the individual members of Congress is just absolutely horrific. And so we've got a bunch of criminals in Congress, but then we knew that, right? The big storm that they were going to engineer, the weather warfare punch that they were going to give the entire Midwest and Southeast of the United States again, the big sort of straight arm punch right into North Carolina, didn't exactly turn out as they planned. We exercised our communal consciousness, if you will, and as a result, there was a very distinct and beneficial alteration in the flow of the jet stream coming across Texas. So the Texans took their Bible to heart and they shoved that whole thing north, and that then dissipated the strength that the weather warfare punch could give to the Southeast. Now, I'm sure there are lots of people from all over the place that weighed in on that and made a big difference. But the shift of the jet stream over Texas was very, very helpful, and it was very obvious. As a result, you did not see Arctic temperatures of minus 80 in Raleigh, North Carolina. You did not see 4 or 5 feet of snow. You saw about 2 feet of snow at most. And you did see much warmer temperatures than had been predicted, and you saw less wind. About the highest wind registry we saw was about 50 mile per hour gusts in a few places, not the 100 mile an hour sustained blizzard winds that were predicted by the geoengineered weather warfare specialists. So none of that panned out, and we know why. From now on, we're not going to be worried about weather warfare. We're just going to take our part and exercise our natural abilities to put an end to that crap. Mr. Trump is under the gun to shut down all of the weather warfare and chemtrail operations, to cut their funding, and to go out in the field, locate their airstrips, arrest the pilots, find out where they're getting the crap, find out who's hiring them, and put them all away. So if you're engaged in any kind of chemtrail activity, it's time to leave that business. The progress has been made on all fronts with all of the different issues of money. Now, those of you who have invested in silver had a wild week, when everybody thought, oh, well, it's going to just, it's going to reset and it's going to be up there with the traditional historical role of silver relative to gold, which would have put silver around $32.50 with $5,000 ounce gold. That could not happen because of the manipulation of the market and the commodity rigging by the central banks. And what you're going to see here is that because Trump finally got rid of Jerome Powell was a he had such a, mannerly Oxford Don persona, and he could rattle on in such a calm and learned way about all these different aspects. And he was a complete battering ram. He destroyed everything he touched. He destroyed the value of the currency, and he's at the same time managed to destroy the value of gold and silver, which was a trick because the two are related. He managed to destroy the commodity exchange and the bond market, and was going to collapse the stock market too before he got out of his tenure in May. That has now been neutralized, and the naming of the new Fed Reserve Chairman, Kevin Warsh, has reassured everybody worldwide who had their eggs in the Federal Reserve basket. That will then calm everything. That will just calm everything. All of the desperate panic buying and the shuttling around and the panic selling and all the things that you've been seeing will quiet down again, because those who had all their eggs in the Federal Reserve basket will now be reassured, and they'll go back to, more business as usual. However, to them and to everybody else, don't be so sure about the Federal Reserve System being unchanged or being the kind of monolithic thing that it has been in the past. Because there are a lot of aspects of the Federal Reserve as a central bank and the other central banks that need definite regulatory control and much greater public oversight and just criminal things that they've gotten away with that need to be dealt with. So it's a world in transition. And to the extent that we can kind of keep it calm and keep it moving forward in an orderly fashion, the better. But just because Kevin Warsh is not a complete disaster, it doesn't mean necessarily what people think it means. The entire institution of the Federal Reserve is due a complete reworking and overhaul of an extreme kind. And, it's true that what you're seeing is a resurgence of the American model over the British model. The American model is much more rooted in reality. Our model, our economy is rooted in productivity and creativity and not industrialization per se, although industrialization is part of it. But it's much more in terms of giving consumers things of value and in growing on the basis of providing value. So America's economic model has always been, by definition, much more practical, much more fair-minded, much more worker-oriented and industry-oriented than Britain. Britain has been a profligate from day one. They've been a profligate institutional lay ever since the quote-unquote English Civil War and the supposed union of England and Scotland under one banner. So they've been spending money that they didn't have. They've been raping and pillaging other countries for natural resources they didn't have. They've been conducting warfare against other nations that is just inexcusable by all standards. And they've been basically bamboozling, conning the entire world while they've been spending in this profligate fashion on their castles and their cars and all this wild stuff that's just, it has no practical value except to please the individuals that are at the receiving end of all of this largesse that they've purloined and manipulated and absconded with. And so I was just looking at a picture this morning. Here's the Royal Horse Artillery, and here's all these black horses and these red gendarmed, beefeater soldiers riding these cavalry horses pulling ancient artillery pieces. And I was thinking, yeah, well, that's just par for the course. Here we are paying for supersonic missiles and defense systems against supersonic missiles. And the British are spending their money on 19th century stables with horses and beefeaters and 19th century artillery pieces to parade around on the streets. It's just absolutely crazy stuff that goes on. But in any event, there are big changes coming to the monetary system, to the defense systems, to all sorts of different things that will be better. And as part of that, we're going to relearn who we are and what we can do. And we're going to realize that we've been crippled by a system that sought to coerce us and control us and keep us from reaching anything like our true potential. We're also going to see evidence of history where these same parties, these same evil corporations and evil governments have conspired to genocide entire populations and keep it quiet. So that, for example, it appears that everything that happened in Nazi Germany happened in a vacuum. It didn't. It appears that everything that happened in Tartaria happened in a vacuum. It didn't. It appears that what happened in the Crimea, in the same basic area that's being fought over now in the Ukraine, that all happened in a vacuum, and it didn't. The truth of the matter is that Rome and Britain have colluded for at least the last 300 years, and they have created all of this misery, all this war to enrich themselves. And they've used everybody else as sock puppets to do it. And this is all going to come out. You're going to learn about the people that have been erased from history. You're going to learn about the secrets behind the architecture that we see that we cannot even begin to replicate. You're going to learn about technologies that you can't even imagine right now that are based on magnetism and sound. And you're going to find that you have a place in all of this that you never suspected because you were being kept literally like a vegetable. You were, the movie The Matrix wasn't that far off, okay? We were, from birth, indoctrinated, lied to, and crippled intellectually and emotionally. We were traumatized on purpose to keep us from reaching our true potential. And this was all done by those who had a self-interested motive to keep us down. And they treated us like some people treat Black people. There was a prejudice, and they maintained this superiority complex, even though their own actions proved just how unrighteous, how unworthy, and how despicable that their mental and emotional landscape really was, or they could not possibly have done the things that they've done. Anyway, we're putting that in the rearview mirror, and it's a good thing. It hasn't come without a lot of sacrifices. It isn't going to come without a considerable amount of disruption. You're going to see many different things happen here that will seem to be unusual at best and startling at worst. And you may continue to see some instances of things like false flags, disruption in the currency and financial markets, weird attempts to get through ugly legislation that is aimed at doing despicable criminal things. You'll see the members of the Congress twisting like worms on a hook because they really are guilty. And you'll see a lot of the court system people begin to wake up and realize, oh my God, I've been involved in a gigantic crime. And you'll see a lot of them leaving the bench. You'll see a lot of lawyers suddenly, taking down their shingles. You'll see these courts closing because they need to close. They are criminal organizations. They're involved in racketeering on one side and illegal salvaging on the other. And they have engaged in aggravated identity theft in order to do all of this harm to this country and to our people. And I just want to briefly say, some of you have come forward and said, oh my, why haven't you defended yourself against the U.S. District Court and all of this other stuff? Well, if I haven't taught you anything at all, I should have taught you that that's not me. They don't have any way to address me. All they can do is address their own franchises, these imaginary public trusts that they create out of thin air and then give themselves the right to administer. Things that don't actually exist, things that are legal fictions, that actually have no validity, no authority, nothing. They're just bullshit, okay? So, people ask me, well, why don't you defend yourself? Well, what would I defend myself with? Codes and statutes that don't apply to living people? Then I would be admitting that I was operating as a corporation or as a foreign person. I'd be handing them jurisdiction. Am I going to waste any more of my time or my life on a system that I know to be false, illegal, unlawful, and immoral? And carrying on some sort of a repartee with criminals? Am I going to waste any more of my life, digging through all of this when I am utterly convinced and sure of it and know that they're just nothing but a criminal organization and that they do not have any authority and that they're operating under color of law and that their statutes and their codes absolutely do not apply to me and my state? I'm not going to waste my time, no matter what they say or do. I'm not going to give them any authority. I'm not going to give them any jurisdiction. I'm not going to defend against them. I'm going to go after the arsonist and forget the brush fire. Okay? I'm going after the entire court system. Okay? I'm going after all the district courts in America. I'm going to force them all back into the District of Columbia, where district courts belong. And everything that they've done that is improper, unjust, illegal, immoral, and unlawful is going to be undone. Okay? So all of those people that appear to be benefiting from this are not going to be allowed to benefit anymore. So I'm going after the arsonist, folks. I'm not going after any brush fires. They can say whatever they want against their own little franchises that don't exist. I will tell them they don't exist. I will tell them, if they ask, that they have no permission to use my name for anything. And that's well established in the public ledgers internationally and nationally. So these people are just engaged in crime, purely, 100%. The municipal courts aren't even supposed to exist in the states of the Union. They're not supposed to be operating within our physical borders. They're supposed to be operating in the District of Columbia and specifically within the city of Washington, D.C. So the municipal courts don't even have a leg to stand on for their existence in the states of the Union. The territorial courts can be here, but they're supposed to be addressing their own citizenry, their own British territorial citizenry that's supposed to be here doing certain duties, right? They're not supposed to be addressing us. They're supposed to be addressing their people. They're supposed to be collecting their income taxes from British territorial citizens, not misaddressing Americans as if we were British territorial citizens. All right? If you go back and you look at what they did, they went through this whole rigmarole at the turn of last century, 1900, where they were doing the quote-unquote insular tariff cases. And the whole behemoth business of the whole, there were like 10 insular tariff cases. This was all to get together an entire regimen of just what kind of excuses they could use to come onto our land and soil in pursuit of their own tax evaders. Okay? This was all about the Brits coming onto our land and soil, and so that they could track down and charge their own employees and dependents. It had nothing to do with us. It had everything to do with them. And so they were setting this up so that they could bring the Internal Revenue Service onto our land and soil, purportedly to track down their tax evaders, their own citizens. Because remember, the 16th Amendment was the whole pièce de résistance. This was the central thing, was getting that 16th Amendment added to their corporate constitution. That is what gave them the ability to create an income tax, create a property tax, and create all of these utility taxes and levy these taxes on their own employees, on the employees' dependents. Okay? And guess what? Our states of the Union never ratified the 16th Amendment. I have the absolute God-honest truth. I have the documents. There is absolutely no doubt that the states of the Union did not ratify the 16th Amendment. So guess what, folks? That means that they're just operating as a corporation, taxing their own dependents and their own employees, their own separate British territorial citizenry. And they have connived and contrived and colluded and defrauded and denigrated and pulled all this phony registration of babies to provide themselves with an excuse to address average Americans. They've tried all sorts of things over the years, and they've racked up all sorts of different excuses, one of which is the so-called victory tax in Title 50. During the Second World War, everybody knew that average Americans didn't owe federal income taxes because guess what? We didn't have any federal income. Okay, you still don't. Do you get one of those green and orange checks from Uncle Sam every month or every 2 weeks? No, you don't. You have no federal income at all. And yet they're taxing you for federal income. Pretty slick deal, isn't it? It's just nothing but graft and fraud. It's nothing but crime. And it's been nothing but crime for a long time. But we haven't been organized enough to stand back and go, hey, this is nothing but crime. You guys get the hell off. Shove off, you Brits. Go, you bastards. You know, this is what we need. We need to realize that these people that are running these courts, these black robes, are running foreign courts, purportedly for foreign citizens, and they're misaddressing us as if we were getting paid for, as if we were getting federal income from them. Well, if we have federal income taxes, where to God is the federal income? I want to see a nice big fat check from Uncle Sam. Yeah, right. So now are you getting the drift here? This is just pure criminality. And they've gotten away with this, and it's a big game. It's called color of law. Not law, color of law. The appearance of law. The appearance of justice. The blighters even have the brass cojones to actually say this in their federal rules of civil procedure. It's all about the appearance of justice. It's not about justice. They've gotten away with this for the better part of 100 years, and they don't see any reason why they shouldn't get away with it for 100 years more. But I'm telling you exactly why they shouldn't be allowed to get away with it another single day. Okay? Every single member of the Bar Association in this country is a criminal by definition. And they are a foreigner by definition. Okay? It's not something that can be disputed. It's something that can be easily proven. They have no business addressing a single American, and all these phony registrations that they took out on babies are nothing but unconscionable contracts that are completely null and void. So everything that they're doing on the basis of presumption is illegal, unlawful, and immoral, and they are all guilty as hell. And that's as simple as it gets. And we know this. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The proof is in the can, so to speak. And so, no, I'm not going to waste my time fighting individual court cases. I'm not going to reply to their courts at all anymore about anything. I will not argue statutes. I will not argue codes. What I'm going to argue is that you guys are criminals, and we all know it. And you're all subject to deportation because they're all foreign agents. So they can make up their minds to either reform or they can be deported. Now, where will they be deported to? Some of them will go back to Vatican City. Some of them will go back to the City of London. But none of them are going to stay here and continue to rape, pillage, and plunder and be incompetent. And when I say that, I'm not just saying that as grandma. I'm saying that as the head of the government in terms of the fiduciary responsibilities. They're not going to be allowed to just continue this rapacious behavior, not toward me, not toward anybody. And you can look at it and you can see it. How many people do you know in the past year alone who have received some sort of summons or citation or some sort of claim that they owe money or that they've committed some kind of infraction against a code or a statute? And every single time that any of us get any of these sorts of communications in the mail, that court clerk is registering a $25,000 charge against the American taxpayers for a misdemeanor, and over $1 million for every felony that is alleged. It's big business. It's really big business because it's pillaging, it's plundering, it's complete piracy, it's taking, it's illegal takings. And they're actually, there are very strict rules against illegal takings in the constitutions. But you see, these vermin have found ways to evade the constitutions by claiming that you are one of them, that you are one of their employees, and that therefore you are part of a foreign citizenry that is under foreign law, either Roman municipal law, or British law. And as it happens, we're not under either one of those forms of law. And they have no right or business to even begin saying that we are. So all of this has been promulgated by lawfare. All of this is huge money that they're extracting out of this country and the living people. And they're all just nothing but crooks. And I mean it, crooks. About the kindest thing I can say for any of the bar association members involved in operating these courts, or any of the civil military that's involved in this, the clerks and so on, is that a great many of them are grossly incompetent. And if all you can say is that their saving grace is that they don't know any better, then something is desperately and definitively wrong, not only with the justice system, but with the administration of the government. Now, in a few weeks here, you're going to see Grandma doing some strange things. I'm going to appear in some odd spots and places, and you're going to go, what's she doing now? And it's all because of the fiduciary aspects. It's all because of the money and the property assets that have to be reclaimed and returned to the actual owners. And it's also a matter of returning our military to their actual true honorable status as a national military. They've been operating as a mercenary force since 1861. They've been bought and sold like the Hessians were bought and sold. They, whoever had the payola, whatever big company or bank had money to hire them, that's where they got sent. And so they've been used and abused. I mean, think about it. If our guys had known that they were working as mercenaries, do you think that they would have done the things that they've done? If our guys had known that they were being conscripted and illegally press-ganged into mercenary service in World War II, in Korea and Vietnam, how long do you think it would have taken for there to be an insurrection of the military and a takeover of the illicit government, the corporations that were running the government? I'd give it about 15 seconds myself. And how many of our boys would have actually, and girls, would have actually signed up and gone into the military if they had known that? Well, if they did, they sure as hell wouldn't have gone in for $20,000 and 3 hots and a cot. They would have gone in as true mercenaries. They would have gotten the training, and they would have been making, $200,000-$300,000 plus all sorts of insurance benefits and perks. So they were just using us as cheap, and I do mean cheap mercenaries. And they got away with all of this under the color of law and under the pretense that they were here serving us under the constitutions, when in fact they were individually evading the constitutions, abusing us, pillaging us, and plundering our country. They're a bunch of filthy nonsense. It's just complete. Don't get me started. Anyway, we're not putting up with it anymore. Nobody in the world is putting up with it anymore. A lot of the figureheads are scared, and they should be, because they went along with this. A lot of the members of Congress took payola from foreign governments A lot of members of Congress were just, immoral and sleazy, dishonest, or were just complete ideologues that had gotten sucked into this, race consciousness or victim consciousness or religious consciousness. They got sucked into these ugly, controlling belief patterns when they were young, and they're actually true believers. There are some of those in Congress too. Anyway, it's a dirty, nasty mess. It's an incredible mess, and I told you this. I've called it the mess consistently for years. And the little picture in your mind of all the ladies with their mops and buckets and kerchiefs and aprons, just think of Carol Burnett. Her little cartoon at the end. Well, this is the way we are. This is what we have to do. We have to literally clean up this mess. And part of the irony is that we've been paying billions upon billions of dollars to all of these intelligence agencies and all of these law enforcement agencies. We've had the DHS, we've had the NSA, we've had the DEA, we've had the DIA, we've had this, that, and the other. We've had every kind of acronym you could think of. We've had every corner of everything covered 16 ways, 22 times, plus the FBI, which can't find its butt with both hands. Okay? We've paid for all of this security and had none. These people are so stupid and so corrupt. Rare combination, but both are true. You've got, those are the two options. They're so stupid and incompetent that they don't deserve to breathe, or they are so corrupt that they should be in jail or off in a floating prison somewhere. They cannot stand there and tell me about the corruption of the Justice Department. Not a word. And yet it's very blatant. It's blatant in the very roots of the Justice Department. The Justice Department was hired by the Scottish corporation secretively doing business as the United States of America, Incorporated. And they created the Department of Justice as an in-house legal team to defend their corporation against claims from other governments and the public. And we got to pay for it all. We got to pay for it both coming and going in all directions, folks. We got to pay for the Department of Justice to attack us on behalf of the corporation that was here taking over our government, plundering and pillaging us, using us as cheap mercenaries, and singing Yankee Doodle all the way. True facts. So they did even worse things with the money. I mean, the money was a target right from the very beginning. So now the Federal Reserve has a Rockefeller-style lockdown on the flow of money, just like Rockefeller had a flow control of the flow of pipelines of gas and oil. Well, so they've set up another pipeline monopoly controlling the flow of money. And they've defined all these different kinds of money, right? There's gold and silver, which is actual money. That's the monetary system. And then they've got all these financial instruments. And they even came up with a whole new roster of financial instruments called digital coinage and, Bitcoin and XRP and Ethereum and all that stuff. And if you invest in any of it, you are really, really dumb. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made, but is it money? No, it's not money. It's just like that silver that disappeared, that never existed. You know, people went out there and they in good faith, they bought silver delivery contracts and they thought they were buying silver on the COMEX. And then the day comes and COMEX turns its pockets inside out and says, oh, well, we've only got 11% of the actual silver and there's no more to buy. Oh, it must be an act of God. No, it's an act of criminality. It's a crime. It's called a Ponzi scheme. And right there in front of God and everyone, the COMEX got caught in a Ponzi scheme. Same thing with JP Morgan. They just applied another Ponzi scheme that's equally illegal, which is fractional reserve banking, right? It's another Ponzi scheme where they figured out that only 10% of the amount of money in deposit would be required on any given day, and so they could steal the other 90%. Well, here's COMEX. They're doing the same exact thing with commodities. There's a reason that COMEX only had 11% of actual silver on hand when the judgment call came in. They're doing the same thing with commodities that they were with money, and money is just a commodity. So this is all central bank Ponzi scheme. And this is why the central banks have to go. This is why the central banks have to be pulled up by the roots, shook off like a dandelion, and kind of sent on down the road. They haven't done any of the things that they promised to do. They have not prevented volatile markets. They have not prevented unrealistic spending. They have not prevented any of the evils that they were supposed to address. They've just compounded those evils and created more of them and created war on top of it. So the central banks need to be completely rethought. They need to be completely examined. They need to be audited. The people that are running these banks need to be known to the public. There are just a lot of things about the central banks that are illegal, immoral, unlawful, wrong, crooked. And this is an example of it, what happened with the COMEX. So I get these calls from people that are desperate. They've put, they're just average people, but they worked and they put money aside, and for whatever reason they decided that they were going to put all of their giddy up, their retirement funds in silver. Well, so they didn't take it as actual silver, right? They didn't actually go out and buy silver like grandma did, right? They took paper silver. And of course, paper silver is only worth what? Paper. So they get told, well, we're sorry, but we can't deliver the silver that you thought you bought. We didn't actually go out and buy silver for you and put it in a vault. We just promised to go get silver. We promised to deliver, and now we can't deliver because there's no silver to buy. And people thought that they'd already addressed that problem by buying in advance, right? Just more crookedness, more crime, more Ponzi scheme, more BS. And so here are these people, oh, well, I've got $200,000 in silver I'm supposed to have, but now it turns out that they didn't actually buy any silver. They just gave me a contract and said they'd deliver it. What can I say? They're out the opportunity cost. They don't have the silver. And as you saw, within about 4 or 5 days, they shut down all the exchanges, and they shut down all of the dealers, the precious metal dealers, so that you couldn't even sell silver into the market. So you see, they've got it rigged, that going or coming. Either they sell you paper silver, and if they can't deliver, they give you the paper back. And if you've got the real silver, well, then they turn around and they propose to tax you 50% of your earnings on it, so that they get the benefit of your investment and you get the stuck having to, pay for the storage and the risk and everything else involved in keeping physical silver. They just cut themselves in for 50%. Or they won't let the market function at all. They just shut down the exchanges and you can't sell it and it becomes worthless. So what needs to become worthless are the politicians and the bankers driving this. What needs to become worthless are all those people who are rigging this in their favor and against your favor, who are making big money and exercising coercive power that nobody ever authorized, okay? They're the ones that need to have a good, swift kick in the pants and pink slip, okay? They need to be taken into a room and told in no uncertain terms what they're doing wrong, and then they need to be kicked. Just a nice, big, solid bump out the door, not eligible for rehire. They do not deserve to be in government. They do not deserve to act for the public when they're acting only for themselves and their cronies. And this has been part of the whole two-party system. In case you hadn't noticed, with the two parties engaged, they select the candidates and you elect the candidates. Whether or not you like them, you try to, you're sitting there like a dumb shit. I'm sorry. But you're sitting there with two candidates that have been pre-selected, and you're always constantly trying to choose the lesser of two evils. What's wrong with this picture, folks? There should be no political parties pre-selecting candidates. And in the actual American government, there never was. Sure, there were groups that supported one candidate or another, but they were not organized as political lobbies. They were not organized as machines to suck up public funds. And that's what these political parties or political lobbies have become. Just imagine all of your tax dollars being in a gigantic trough, and you have two different colors of pigs. You got black pigs and you've got pink pigs, and they're fighting and jostling at the trough, trying to get more and more and more for themselves and for their piglets, right? That's what we've had going on in Washington, D.C. for 160 years, and you want to tell me that nobody noticed? These political parties need to be outlawed. They need to go the way of the dodo and stay down, okay? We need to get rid of the political parties, and we need to have a much more fair and open electoral process so that anybody can run for an office and by their own words and actions and merit prove that they are worthy of the public trust. Not just because they're in some political coalition's pocket. Okay, that should not be the factor that we're looking for in our leadership. Do you realize that there isn't really a platform anymore even? They're not even trying to sell a platform with stated goals or anything. They're just ideologues sort of sitting out there in space spinning and saying, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Look at Tim Walz. Oh yes, oh yes. Anything goes. Billions of dollars, Minnesotans, went out of your pockets. And if you're not mad about something more than trying to defend a non-existent right of an illegal alien to stay in this country, then you're not as cracked as anything can get. Billions of your tax dollars were stolen from you and used to fund black ops in other corners of the world. Money that was supposedly set aside to feed hungry children in Minnesota Went whoof, right out the door. And if you're not angry about that, you sure as hell should be. I am absolutely disgusted by what I see going on in Minnesota. I can't believe that Minnesotans, real Minnesotans, aren't as angry as I am. The fact that billions of their dollars that could have been spent on better roads, better schools, better water systems, better everything for Minnesota and Minnesotans was wasted, was embezzled. It was embezzled. It was siphoned. It was stolen. And, you know, the people who did this to you are the people that you're trying to defend and keep in Minnesota? Well, then you must have been on the take too. You must have been up there getting your little share of the trough, and that's why you want to keep it going. All those thousands of people in the street are, again, either so stupid they don't deserve to live, or so crooked that they're involved in it up to their chins. And that's the only two conclusions that you can arrive at. Because if someone tells you that $9 billion of your tax money that was supposed to go to help you and your state has been stolen by these animals, and you're not offended, well, what can I think? I mean, the level of ignorance and corruption in this country is at record high levels. And we have to do something about it. We can't just sit here on our thumbs and go, oh, well. It's gotten to the point where you absolutely have to get busy and, you know, grab it. I don't care how you grab it, where you grab it, when you grab it, just grab your, you know. I said to Harold many years ago, I said, I feel like a mouse chewing an elephant. But you get a million mice chewing on that elephant, and pretty soon the elephant disappears. So what we have to do, with no doubt whatsoever, is we have to get more people tuned in, thinking, so that they're actually, you know, got some brain activity and moving forward to correct this mess. Otherwise, it's never going to get better. There's nobody here but us chickens. If you're expecting Mr. Trump to save you, think again. If you're expecting Mr. Vance to save you, think twice. If you're expecting any of these yahoos to play the hero, ain't gonna happen. They were bought, sold, processed, approved, compromised before they ever got close to those offices. Guaranteed. As part of the political party process. Every single one of them is dirty. Every member of those political parties at those political offices, the Congress, the Senate, all of it is dirty. It's all compromised. It's all pre-sold. And there is no exception to it. All right? So no matter what side they're playing, it's not a side. We have been pre-programmed and predisposed and programmed to think of everything in terms of A and B, you know, this or that, either or, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. Throw that out the window. Just every time you catch yourself thinking that, go, that's an illusion. That's just more BS. That's just more showmanship. It's just more bread and circuses to keep you from focusing on what you need and what you want and what's real. You know? we have got to get back to thinking for ourselves and not expecting anybody else, any nanny state, to take care of us. You see how the nanny state takes care of us. The nanny state is mommy dearest. The nanny state is an evil, crippling, corrupt, vicious, self-interested, gluttonous piece of crap. And we have no choice but to change it. Up, down, sideways, bottom, and top. We have got to do this. So when you think of that little old lady with the mop and bucket, just think of the filthiest room that you ever imagined. Think of a room utterly covered in dog shit. And think about a whole crew of people having to wade in and start digging it out. Because that's what we've got. The entire political spectrum worldwide, not just this country, worldwide, is filthy. I can count the number of honest politicians who are not compromised in the entire world on one hand. Think about that. We Americans are not alone. Not by any stretch. Every country that you can think of needs to do the same thing. The same level of filth is occupying their seats of government. And they have to take up their mops and buckets too. Anyway, I'm sure there are lots of questions, and I'm not sure I'm going to have the energy.
Well,
but we'll
go with one question that I've received about 32 emails on in the last week. Can you give an update on Global?
Well, we've had some problems with personnel being sick, having health issues at Global. But despite all that, everybody's on the mend now. And hopefully we're going to come out of that little hiccup with everything intact and everybody moving forward here this week. We have successfully arranged for all of our funding, and we're tracking down more. We have everything that we need to do what we've set out to do. And we are closing in on the both sides of it. We are closing in on the gold and silver. We're closing in on the new prepaid credit instruments. So both of those are going. You'll have basically two streams of income. Well, let's put it that way. You'll have the gold and silver on this side, the monetary system, and you'll have the prepaid credit on the financial instrument side. So you'll be able to function in both systems. Our prepaid credit, which is based on actual goods and services that were already delivered, is like a linchpin connecting the world of money and physical assets and the world of financial instruments, stocks, bonds, and debits, and all of that. Okay, so we have the answer in terms of connectivity between the two realms of monetary and financial system cohesiveness. Now that we have the prepaid credit instrument firmly envisioned in mind and developed, we can do a lot of things that the market was assuming were not going to happen. They assumed that we were never going to wise up and that we were never going to figure it out and that they would have a full reign ability to do whatever kind of charlatanism they wanted to pull, including the idea that we were drowning in debt when actually we're extremely wealthy. That's a good it's a good little trick, don't you think, to try to convince people that they're drowning in debt when they're actually very, very wealthy? And that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to fool us into thinking that we were drowning in this insurmountable national debt when the national debt doesn't really even exist and only appears to exist as a result of dishonest bookkeeping. So one of the first things that has to go are all the national debts. Not just ours, all national debts, because they're all bogus. Every single one of them. And then all of the money that has been paid out as interest on those national debts needs to be collected back from the banks and the bankers and the principals responsible for carrying on this fraud. And I can tell you right now that most of them won't be able to come even close to what they've consumed. But at least we'll have the satisfaction of making sure that this is properly accounted for. And then we will be going through the whole litany of the debt-based notes, both the euros and the Federal Reserve notes. So bit by bit and piece by piece, the prepaid credit that you spend into the economy will reduce the number of Federal Reserve notes that are in circulation, and at the same time we'll be undergoing a process of trying to take them out of circulation and keep them from being printed by Mr. Obama's counterfeiting machine in other countries. The Federal Reserve note has been grossly counterfeited, and as a result, it has suffered even more inflation than it would have naturally suffered. It was intended to be a domestic currency, never intended to be an international currency. When the Federal Reserve note was conceived, there was no such thing as a fiat international currency. Gold and silver have always been the international currencies because none of the countries would trust each other with, oh yeah, I'm going to give you paper for this. No, no, gold has always been the international currency, and you could pay in silver, but gold was basically the international standard. And it was certainly the international standard in 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act took effect for the current round of Federal Reserve nonsense that's gone on here. But anyway, what they did is that they gradually worked things around to begin using the Federal Reserve note, which was supposed to be a domestic scrip, into being an international currency. And after the Second World War, they gradually began introducing it as a international currency. And you get this whole business of the reserve currency status that came out after the Second World War with the Bretton Woods Agreement. That whole thing, by any stretch, was just an excuse for finding a more elastic means of the Europeans and others that had been decimated by the war to borrow. And everybody focuses on whatever advantage we were supposed to get out of it. What we got out of it was paying the bill. And there's no way to sugarcoat that. But the Europeans were enabled to borrow and borrow and borrow. And in fact, they were so used to having us pay all their bills for us that when President Trump had the temerity to suggest they should pay a smaller, a small percentage.
Not that I can think of, no.
Shannon, you're on mic.
I am in the middle of my webinar, just so you know. I'm currently muted.
No, you're not.
Oh, I'm not
Shannon.
muted. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, this was a way for Europe to borrow exponentially, and they did. And they borrowed our assets. They borrowed against our productivity. They just borrowed and borrowed and borrowed, and we paid all of their defense costs. We paid all of their defense costs for years after the Second World War, and then there was a big meeting and they decided that they might pay up to 4 or 5%. And Mr. Trump had the temerity to ask them to pay up 6%. And now I believe that, I can't quite guarantee this, but I think that I heard correctly that now he's told them they have to pay all their own expenses. Imagine that. We've had them on our backs for 80 years. We've been supporting their economies. We've been giving them, open markets. We've been giving them all this largesse and paying for their defense budgets. And they've just been soaking it up endlessly. Absolutely no motivation to get out of the nanny state and stand on their own again. And we were the chumps. We were the marks. We were the ones that paid for all of this. And Britain sat there raking it in after they caused the whole problem. They just sat there, oh, come on, baby, bring me more. We're going to, scam everything and everybody every way we can. And that's how you have things like Prince Philip showing up and having the governor of the Ottawa Corporation giving him $950 trillion in life force value annuities. Now you just stop a moment and think about that. Anyway, Shannon.
Okay, you got another one in you? You had 2 pretty good rants already today. Okay.
Well, I am frustrated. I am sick and tired of all of the BS that I have to deal with every day. First thing that got me this morning was someone asking me, well, why didn't you defend yourself against the U.S. District Court and Daniel Applegate? I want you to know, folks, that's not a court issue. That's a criminal issue. It's a crime against me. And it's a diplomatic issue because it's being promulgated by another country. I'm not the criminal. They're the criminals.
Something a little more happy to think of is the Federation planning the celebration of our country's 250th anniversary.
Yes, we sure as hell are. We're going to be in Philadelphia.
Okay, next question. What questions do I use to qualify an American common law counselor? And is there a directory of them?
That's a very good question. There isn't such a directory that I know of as yet, but that's an excellent question, and it's a real good opportunity for someone with a background in law to start such a directory and start the effort toward a training program.
Okay, next one. Why do we use the word political when correcting my political status?
Because it is political. What they've done is they've deprived you of your nationality. Forgive me if I have to shove my thumbs into my eye sockets and pray, because your nationality is not the same as your citizenship or lack of citizenship. Okay? Citizenship implies that you owe the government service. It implies that you're a serf in a monarchical system, or it implies that you're a slave under the Pope's system. It implies that you owe the government service instead of the government owing you service. Okay? So are you a citizen? This is a yes or no question. Do you owe service to the government? Do you have a debt that you owe the government? Do you have a job that you owe the government? Are you a citizen? For most of us, the answer is no, we're not citizens. We may owe some nominal debts to the government for services that the government renders, right? But the government also owes us a huge debt that they can't repay. So it's a situation like two brothers have, one brother owes $10 and the other brother owes $100. And they should, if they're honest, be swapping the debt between them. And instead, the government, or the corporations, I should say, that are posing as the government, have promoted the idea that your debt is the only debt. Your debt to them for the services they render is the only debt they see. But in fact, they owe you a huge debt, including all of the money for their support. So the accounting has been screwed. The accounting is dishonest. And so that's how they try to claim that you're a citizen, is that they say that you owe them a debt. But they totally discount and do not account for their debt to you. And that's where the fiduciary office comes in and says, to hell you, Beller. You owe these people $70 million. Take your $1,500 property tax and stuff it in your ear.
That's a lot better than where I'd think to tell them to stuff it.
You see my point. You're not a citizen. And just because you may owe them a petty debt here or there does not make you a citizen. They're the citizens. And they owe you a lot more than you could ever owe them. And this is the crux of the matter. Those judges, when they sit on that bench, are supposed to operate as bankers. They're supposed to look at the amount of money that you are owed and the money that the government franchise is owed, and they're supposed to bring them together and cancel them out. No more debt. That's the way it's supposed to work. But these black-robed yahoos don't do their job, do they? They continue on with the farcical idea, even though they know better, that you are the only one owing the debt. And they use that as an excuse to seize upon your property illegally. And that's why they deserve to have their butts kicked from here to Poughkeepsie. So anyway, yeah.
Okay, next question. The state of Washington and possibly other states too are proposing a tax on state pensions. How does a retired ASN respond when the state holds the purse strings?
A retired ASN takes their money from Global and runs. You forget about any importance attached to a state or federal pension. All those things are just not even a gnat's eyelash compared to what you're owed. And you finally have an avenue open to get what you're owed. So all these people that are having such a hard time right now and so worried about the future, don't worry about the future. Worry about your own state of mind. Worry about how your mind is thinking, how it's working. They've had us so bamboozled, it's not even funny. I mean, here you are, say you're a teacher, or you're a postal clerk in a post office, right? You get up, you go to work every damn day. You work until you're exhausted. Your feet are practically falling off your legs by the time you get home. You've been battered, you've been bruised, you've had everybody up your shirt all day long, and you've been sitting here working and working and working, and then you go home and you have to do what? You have to grade homework. Or you have to do a tally and keep track of how many stamps were in your drawer. Or, there's just no end to it. They work you to absolute death in these public jobs. And they keep adding more paperwork too. It's not enough that you teach the kids at school, you teach history or you teach English or whatever it is you're teaching. Oh no, you have to keep dossiers and profiles on each and every student. You have to evaluate every student for their political leanings and their racial composition and whether or not they come from a two-parent home or a one-parent home. You have to keep all these records on all these students, and then if anything happens, anything at all, then you've got limit loads of all sorts of legalistic forms and things that you have to fill out. Oh, Johnny kicked Joey. You've got 25 pages worth of extra crap you have to fill out on top of your job. Okay? These jobs working for the government or the government corporations, right, are killers. And all this while, you're just working and working and working and working for that pension. Oh, you're just waiting for that day when you can retire, right? And you're going to have such a nice, secure government pension. Well, I'm sorry, folks. It's a big lie. It's a total lie. Number one, they have not paid you anywhere near what the service was worth the entire time that you're working for them. Number two, they've been paying you in fake stuff. They've been giving you plastic corn instead of real corn, right? So you've got a whole bunch of fake crap in your retirement account too, right? And now they're threatening you with taxes on your retirement. And they're threatening you with taking away your retirement. And they're threatening to go bankrupt and plead force majeure and just leave you sitting there with a doodad in your hair after working for 30 years for these criminals, right? They're doing all that. And people are scared. Oh, what happens if my Social Security goes away? What happens if my SSI goes away? What happens if I no longer have my military pension? You know the answer? Anybody here know the answer to that? It doesn't matter. Because you are so filthy rich, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about your pension. You don't have to worry about all these petty little things. Because all that money that was yours, that they've been using for their black ops and their cocktail parties and all the stuff that they've been using as payola for all these foreign governments, is suddenly off the table. And it's coming back to you. And you'll be able to sit there and go, oh, my teacher's pension. Oh, gee, a whole $767 a month. And it just won't matter at all. Because you'll have so much more and be able to do so many things more that you won't have to worry about your pension anymore. You'll be able to just say, oh, well, write that off. Who cares? Now, that's the God's honest truth.
Okay, next question. Anna, can I travel with a new passport by signing it only on the byline and copyright? I renewed online and nowhere in the application asks if you are a U.S. citizen, but it does reference U.S. citizens and non-citizen nationals. I being also a Colombian national, could they then deny me entry back into Alaska? Thank you.
No, they couldn't do anything. You are a non-citizen national. You see, they're even having to adopt our language. They're having to describe us properly because we've been making enough of a push, and we've made enough, contacts internationally, so that you get to be who you are. You don't have to claim to be a U.S. citizen. Okay, so and it was always that way. It was convenient and to their advantage, and so they coerced and pushed and, omitted. So just go ahead. No, they can't. They can't do anything. You are a national. It's your nationality that counts. It's not your political status. It's not citizenship status. The only thing that matters is your nationality. And you can be a dual national, by the way.
Getting to the button. Okay.
He's trying to eat a banana cream pie at the same time he's hosting this meeting.
No, right now I'm being jungle gymmed by a 17-month-old.
Ah, okay.
If there are multiple streams of income, why can't GFG release and bring the stream online one at a time?
Well, in theory, that's what will happen. It will be the AFD first, and then shortly thereafter, the prepaid credit. They're two different systems, and they both have to work together. They have to be a connect, because otherwise you can't get to the system that this country is currently operating on. It's a multi-step process.
Okay, one quick thing here. Just a quick peekaboo for little man. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Clarence.
He sees Grana.
Yes, he worries about me. I've got him well trained. If I get behind him in the parking lot, he turns around and looks for me, guides me where I ought to go. This is a piece of Grana advice. When your children are young and you're worried about them running away from you in a department store and getting lost under a rack of clothes or something, no, you explain to them that you get easily lost and that they have to watch where the car is and where you are, because if you get lost, then what'll happen to you, right? Works like a charm. All my kids always watched where I was. I never had to worry about them running away.
I have no fear of that the way this boy clings to me. He's definitely a daddy's boy. Okay, next question. Can we have any info on return process of foreclosed homes 2024 time frame, and do we have to do something about it? Contact the courts, etc. Is the whole process up to the Lord and Mayor of London?
You've got 2 years in which to protest and bring some other reclamation action in their system. I'm looking at this as getting rid of the whole damn shittery within less than 2 years and getting everybody back in their own homes, getting all the people that were defrauded who bought the homes under false pretenses paid back by the rascals responsible, and then we all just settle out and go back to having a decent world. I really don't think it's going to take us 2 years. I think we're going to force out the district courts in almost no time. We're going to either force them to exonerate their own cases or we're going to exonerate them for them. And then we're going to go out and in all these cases where people have been forced out of their homes under bogus presumptions, and other new people have been seduced into buying homes that weren't really available for sale. We're going to straighten that whole thing out real fast. These courts are going to be shut down. They have to be shut down. And they're going to be. And the people who have been responsible for all of this misadministration and fraud are going to be punished.
Okay, for our next magical question. Last week you mentioned courts of record. Please elucidate. How do we constitute courts of records? Do both states and counties have courts of records? What types of matters can court of record address? Can our court record substantiate our status and standing in the de facto matters? What type of matters can court of records not address?
A court of record is simply a court that convenes and considers the records. Not only the existence of records, but the quality of records. So, for example, if you have a deed, and you have a patent, and you have a land description, and you have all these different things in your name, then guess what? You're the owner. And no clerk's deed has anything to do with it. The clerk has no public interest trust to administer. If you have no public debt to them, and by definition you don't have a public debt to them because they already owe you a lot more, remember? Then all that stuff goes right out the window, and your record proves that you're the owner. That's the court of record. And, you can be your own court of record, bring forward the records, lay them down, have the notary witness it, boom, there you are. Or you can have an assembly body, have some, draw 12 jurors, have them examine the records, confirm that you're the owner, sign off on it, boom, there you've got a jury decision on a court of record issue. Not a damn thing that anybody on earth can do about it. It's yours. These are things that we need to make advantage of. These are things that are in our kit bag that we just need to bring to bear on all of this crime that's going on. And it is crime. You can look up court of record in American jurisprudence. Second, you can look it up in legal dictionaries, law dictionaries. They'll explain what a court of record is, but basically it's just a court based on public record.
Okay, next question. I heard some time ago that Global received recognition/approval from the U.S. Treasury. If this is true, is this true? And if so, what does it mean in practical terms for Global Bank and its account holders?
Well, what's the U.S. Treasury going to do when we own the U.S. Treasury? Okay? Where do you think they got all their money? They got all their money from us by pooling our assets and using our assets as collateral to issue all their financial instruments. So at the end of the day, who owns the U.S. Treasury? We do. Why do we own the U.S. Treasury? Because we own the assets. Therefore, we also own all of the credit generated from the assets. We own everything in the U.S. Treasury. We own everything in all of these banks. Living men and women are the owners and the presumed donors of all these public trusts that have been created out of thin air and named after us. And these little pissants have been sitting there as the middlemen, doling out barely survival food, barely survival, keep those people working all their lives right until they're ready to croak. Make them miserable, make them worried, make them fret over April 15th. While they've been using your money for their benefit. While they've been using your money as payola. While they've been using your money as collateral for their debts. Are you hearing me very clearly now? Are you really hearing this? I've said it before, but I really want you to center in on just exactly how egregious the crime is. I want to highly motivate you. I want to get you thinking. I want you to think about money. What is money? What is value? What is value based on? What is credit? What does credit depend upon? Collateral. And what serves as collateral? Money, houses, farms, businesses, machinery, cars. Everything that's physical is collateral in the financial world. That's why the collateral has to be monetized in the fiat system. So, Joe, how's it feel to be the chump, the presumed donor? Well, you're the donor, all right. Time to exercise that position and say, oh, I'm dissolving the trust. And by the way, you're not my administrator or trustee.
Okay, for the next question. The GFG site was down a few times this week for maintenance, and I noticed a few changes to the account portals. One of them was adding text messaging communication notice saying, mobile phone, I agree to receive transaction-related text messages from Global Family Group. Reply stop to opt out. 1. Will we be receiving text messages when they make deposits or any transactions? 2. Are these new updates an inclination that we are going to go live for use soon? When will we be able to transact amongst vendors?
Yes, we are going to go live soon. Yes, you will be getting messages from GFG directly. Yes, there is a new Telegram channel for GFG. I highly recommend everybody get set up on the new channel because I'm sick and tired of all of the scuttlebutt and gossip and just pure irresponsible speculation about GFG that everybody's indulging in. If you want to know what's going on with GFG, you'd have to ask GFG, and you have to tune into their portal so that you can get these announcements so that you know what's happening. They're making the effort to make the information available, but you have to participate by signing up and saying, yeah, I'll accept, text messaging from GFG. I'm just tired of hearing people say, oh, I don't know what's going on. Well, make yourself available to hear what's going on and hear it directly from the horse's mouth instead of hearing it 18 people down the road, I don't know what to tell folks when, they call me up and they say, well, I don't know what's happening with GFG. Get on the Telegram channel. Accept their text messages so that you know when something new is going on. How do you expect to communicate if you have no channels of communication open to them? And it just, this grapevine stuff where everybody is second guessing and rumors are starting and all of that, it's just it's an unnecessary irritation and waste of everybody's time. So please get connected. Sign up for text messaging from GFG. Sign up for their Telegram channel. That way when there's an announcement and you really need to know, when there's something like, we are going to be closed for maintenance on such and such a day, you'll know. Oh, well, we're going to adjust the inflation proofing on our accounts for new home buyers. Oh, well, then you'll know. Okay? There's no reason for everybody to be chasing around second guessing what's happening at GFG. Just get connected, accept the text messaging, go on to Telegram and friend to GFG, and you'll be on the Telegram channel. You'll be able to get all the latest news directly from GFG, and you will know what's going on, and you won't have to ask your friend and buddy up the road or whoever you think might know.
Okay, next question. Someone will ask if you could expand upon what the Federation is planning for the 250th anniversary.
We're going to be in Philadelphia, and it's going to be like coming home. It may be a job, it may be dirty, it may be filthy, we may have a whole bunch of crap going on, but we're going to be in Philadelphia.
Does this mean I have to leave state?
I was just saying, we're going to fly our peace flag.
Okay, does this mean I have to leave Alaska?
Oh, you might have to come down for a day or two. It's up to you. I can still find my way around, especially if I've got several Air Force cadets on either side steering me.
Okay. Wait, that's not one. That's an advertisement. Gotta love finding those when you're going through your questions list. A bunch of advertisements. Resurgence. I gotta clean this. I gotta clean this mess up.
Yeah,
but either way,
I've got quite a whole bunch of stuff here going too.
Okay. I know the AFD is backed by gold. Are you in full control of the gold/gold bonds? Where is it? How do you acquire it? And why are you not able to convert some gold bonds into currency currently? Could you ask Hunter from Global to come on a call one night with us on a Monday and answer some questions to get more clarity on where he's at in the development and expectations of the GFG operations? I think that's what's confusing people, at least me it is whether or not she actually has the gold ready to go as soon as the switch at Global is turned on.
Well, whatever else I am, I'm not stupid and I don't accept paper gold as gold. I know the difference. Okay? So we have gold. We have actual, factual, in the hand, in the vault, gold. Okay? So there's that. There are people that owe us gold bonds, but that's their gold in their vaults that we have to go and bring in. I hope that makes sense, that there is. When you issue a gold bond, unlike a gold delivery contract or a silver delivery contract, you are required to have that gold sitting there. Okay? So we know that the gold bonds that other countries have published and issued are actually backed by gold. We're not in the position that so many people have been with those silver delivery contracts at the comics. So whether it's directly in our possession or whether it's owed to us factually and we can go get it and make the arrangements for bullion transfers, that's how that stacks out. Now, in terms of people being able to use the AFD, we have a lot of things that have to take a little bit of time. We have plans for a coinage. Has to be struck at the mint. We have plans for an ad valorem type cash product. We're not going cashless. In our opinion, it's absolutely important for the safety and sanity of living people to have control, physical control of money. And so we are not a cashless society, and we're never going to be. But it does realistically take us a little time to get new coinage minted, get new cash equivalents produced so that people have money in their pockets that's theirs, that they can spend at their discretion and without it being tracked on a digital system.
Okay, here's the next question for us. Is it possible that they are raising the price of gold and silver to make sure they don't go bankrupt once we are paid?
They're raising the price of gold and silver because that's been their plan since 1910. The plan was always to hoard as much gold and as much silver by any means possible, fair or foul, and stuff it in huge bullion repositories and just sit on it until the fiat currency became utterly worthless because none of it was ever actually repaid or bought back. And they figured that was going to happen because they never counted on us waking up and doing the prepaid credit. Anyway, we did wake up. We are issuing the prepaid credit. They're not going to be able to get away with what they thought they were going to get away with. And basically what it was very simple. They were going to beg, borrow, steal, or coerce gold at $20 an ounce, which is what Franklin Delano Roosevelt paid our grandparents for their private gold during his gold seizure. They came around from house to house and they actually they took crucifixes off people's necks, they took wedding rings, they took everything they could take. And they weighed it and they gave them a $20 IOU note for every ounce. You can choose to think what you want to think, but I just call that criminal. Anyway, they paid $20 an ounce, if you can call that payment. And then they planned to run up the price of gold to something like $25,000 an ounce. Crazy stuff. That's what they had planned. It's never going to work out that way, but that's what they had planned. They were going to get gold prices into the stratosphere And then they were going to get that kind of money back out of the people in terms of labor and actual goods. They were going to extract that for the gold that they paid a $20 IOU for. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay,
bad enough
one
out of
last
the White House.
question. We've got time
Sure.
for one more question, and let's shoot. Do you know where to find the vendor list for Global? I've been unable to locate it and would like any assistance I could to find it.
Well, last time I went on the global website, I was able to find it. I just was looking for, the vendor list. Maybe you need to just step out of the system and try Global Family Group vendors as a search. It's also possible they might have, taken it down temporarily while they're tweaking the final rendition for release. But last time I looked for it, I just used some simple search words like that, and it came right up.
All right. Well, that's about all we got time for. And the rest of the questions we got will take a lot more time than what we got left.
Well, we know that we've been on for 2 hours, and you've had a couple good rants, and you've certainly had some straight talk about how criminal and bad this system really is. And I hope that you're highly motivated. I love each and every one of you. I glory in your grit. We're all going to need to get more people involved and, clue in more Americans so that they realize what's happening. And I regret to say that, once the bank goes live and you start having the use and benefit of your own money, we'll have a whole ton of people coming in because they want the money. And it's going to be up to each and every one of us to make sure that they know that that's an inheritance and that a lot of people suffered a lot of stuff to make it happen. And that this isn't another government giveaway. Mr. Trump may be doing a government giveaway. We're not doing a government giveaway. This is money that belongs to you, that was yours from the time you were born, that they were using and just kind of neglecting to tell you about. Now, don't squander it, and do take your responsibility to the government seriously in terms of having to run your own government according to American principles. I've had a terrible situation in North Carolina for months now, and it's just like pulling teeth. I want to say here and now to everybody that a republic is a form of government that is basically built on local government within stipulated areas, geographical areas. And in our case, our governments are centered on the counties and states, which are defined as separate little geographical areas. They're physically defined, okay? And they depend upon committee work. Okay, if you've got a Republican form of government, you're going to have committees, and those committees are going to research and do work and report back to the General Assembly or the Jural Assembly or the militia, and they're going to make their reports and they're going to do their work. You cannot have a Republican, okay, I'm going to say that again. It's not a republic, it's Republican form of government without having geographical boundaries, without having a population, defined within those geographical boundaries. And you're not going to get any work done in a Republican form of government without committees, working groups, people actually taking part in their own government, people doing work so that they can make decisions as the government. Okay? Now, if you've got just a few people who are running everything, you don't have a Republican form of government, which is what the American government requires. If you've got just a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 people running everything, you've got an oligarchy. And that's not only not American, it's not even legal. It's not lawful, okay? You cannot run a state assembly like a private club. You cannot. And it doesn't matter if you've got 2 private clubs going, okay? Neither one can operate as an oligarchy and be within the requirements of the American government. You have to function as a Republican form of government. Okay? So I just want to observe that, especially to those who are having the worst time trying to figure that out. And you cannot have a private organization as a government legitimately. All our governments are public. Our functions are public. Okay? So you can't just freeze people out because you don't like them for any reason. You can't freeze them out because of their religion or their color or anything. They are part of the American public, and you have to open up your doors and just realize that this is a public institution. The assemblies are public institutions, and they're going to include everyone. They have to. They're not private clubs. So just get that through your brains. The only reason that anybody ever gets restricted from participating in their state government or their county government is if they repeatedly disrupt the functioning of the group by doing things like being drunk and disorderly, or coming in and trying to talk about other things without bothering to get on the agenda. Things that are disruptive, things that interfere with the flow of work and discussion that the assemblies have to contribute to their own self-governance. Okay, so we can't have people that are causing disruptions. We can't have people that are knowingly, willfully causing an obstruction or slowing down the conduct of business. But otherwise, everybody gets to participate. And that has to be the rule. Okay? I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I'm staying on the up and up. We have a lot of balls in the air, we're just trying to keep up with it all. I gave Terry a list of about, I don't know, probably 50 things that we're working on all at once. And asked her to share that list with everyone so you got a good idea of exactly how much work and all the different topics that the Federation has to cover. It's damned impressive. The ongoing needs. The ongoing needs of the Federation are pretty simple and straightforward. We have travel costs. We have material costs. We have limited costs for like expert witness type things. And we have some equipment costs that are things like breakdowns and that sort of thing. And we've managed to fund everything just by free will donations. We haven't ever taken any money we've been operating under the assumption that you don't pay yourself to mow your own grass. And so hopefully the rest of you who aren't mowing any of our grass will help us to get the job done. I know everybody's been scared by all this volatility in the metals markets, and I know everybody's been scared by threats against their pensions and threats to, increase taxes on Social Security and all this other stuff. But as I explained tonight, you don't really have to worry about that because guess what? You're Americans. And so your forefathers earned more than enough so that you don't have to worry. And I hope that, you will, if you have some extra shekels here this coming week, you'll think of us because we are, as always, it's the nature of the beast that every moment that we get something pushed forward, there's something more to do, right? So we get this part done, and then, oh, well, there's that part too. And so it's a constantly, I won't say expanding, but changing set of parameters that we're having to deal with. And one of the ones that's coming up now is dealing with prisons for profit and CPS, Child Protective Services, kidnapping kids for profit. And all these issues are finally coming to the fore, and they're kind of expanding beyond the initial realization that this was going on, and then the investigation into it, and then assembling the facts. It's now going forward into the stage of actually prosecuting these agencies for basically for illegal acts. I don't know if everybody caught it last week, but I sent out a blurb about Child Protective Services. 83% of the child kidnappings that have gone on have not been legal according to their own laws. And they've been charging absolutely astronomical amounts of money for each child in custody. So just so you realize just how serious a problem and how incredibly expensive this is. It's $6,000 a day per child and $9,000 a day if they have a learning disability or a physical disability, any kind of disability. It automatically goes up by $3,000 a day. And so now you can see why these CPS groups are so highly motivated to use any excuse, plausible or not, to seize children from their homes and put them into foster care situations, many of which are compromised. So we have a lot of evil built into the system by people that were crooked to begin with, and by lack of any kind of proper oversight or administration. And we're beginning to grapple with these kinds of issues to get people set free from prison who should never have been in prison, who are just basically there as an excuse to charge money, and to get kids back to their families who should never have been taken from their homes to begin with, and who are likewise just there as cash cows for the the charges that these quote unquote agencies have been making. Anyway, those are just an example. We get all these different things on our desk, and we have to grapple with all of them. And we can only do that if you support our efforts. So if you know somebody who's in jail who shouldn't be there, if you know somebody whose kids were taken who should never have had to go away from home, you can certainly sympathize with the importance of getting those programs corrected and getting people back where they belong. And I will just, kind of close it out. If you can send cash, it's as good a way as any. It gets to me at my address, my post office box. And we also blank, checks where the pay to line is blank, that could be negotiated. There are lots of ways that you can contribute. You can send silver via Paul Stramer's website. There are a lot of different things that people have come up with to, be able to support what our work is and how we're going about it. And of course, we always accept all your good wishes and your suggestions and your prayers. And with that, I will stop moving my mouth and say good night, folks. God bless
All right, talk to you
everybody.
tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.